Welcome to our video on developing leaders. Today we're going to talk about a 5-step approach to developing leaders. I'm Marshall Shannon with Ministry Design Concepts. And so here is a 5-step approach to developing leaders. It's a approach, not the approach. We want to look at 5 phases, and here they are. The first one is discovery. The second is to develop. The third is to deploy. The fourth is to direct. And the fifth is to distinguish. We'll start with the discovery phase. If you're going to develop a process that works together and synchronized, then you want to put together these 5 phases, these 5 steps to help you correctly prepare your people to lead. The first phase of the discovery step is exploration. In it, you have a learning stage where the candidate learns about your process. Also, you learn about the candidate, and you use 2 things to do that. One is you have an interview stage, and the second is observation. Now, this is a 2-way street where you're watching them and they're watching you. They're learning about you and you're learning about them. You have conversations or interviews, and then you observe each other and how they're living out their life, and they watch how your process and ministry is going in order to move to the next stage. Here are some design questions that you would be wise to answer up front as you design your leadership development process. Number 1, who will lead the exploration process? Who's going to lead the interview and observation? How will the exploration be structured? What will be the qualifications for the candidate? Are you going to tell them what the qualifications are? Who will review the benefits of leadership with the candidate? So as you look at these, you want to answer these questions and more to help you develop the exploration phase of this first step of discovery. Then you go to the second phase, which is assessment. Assessment is where you're going to discern several things about them: their spiritual gifts, their heart, their passions, their abilities, both by nature, how they were hardwired in the womb, and nurtured, how they were developed. Then their personality, and you've got the DISC profile: who's dominant, influential, steadfast, and compliant. And then you want to look at their experience. If you look down across this, it's an acrostic of shape. So you're trying to assess who they are, how God has put them together, how they have developed to this point in their life, and to see if they're going to be a good fit for your ministry. So you're trying to assess who they are and how God's put them together. Along with assessing their shape, you have some design questions that you would do well to answer. Who leads the assessment? Who is assessed? What does the assessment include? Are they in alignment, attunement, and agreement with the following things? Your church's core values. What drives your church needs to be, either in part or in whole, what drives the candidate for the leadership development process. Your mission as a church, does it resonate with the candidate? Your vision, are they convinced of it and compelled by it? Your strategic plan, do they feel like they'll fit in it and they agree with the way you execute your game plan and the way you manage your game plan? You want to make certain that you're asking these in the front end, and it is better to have your process developed in whole so you can show a clear pathway as to where the candidate is going to go step by step. Here's the next one. There's a recruitment. After you have explored both the candidate and the church, and now you have assessed, and they're assessing you and you're assessing them, you're going to move into the recruitment. And this is where you invite the potential leaders to discover God's place for them and His economy in your church. So you're taking people from wherever we find them to wherever God wants them to be. You're going to give them an invitation. Somehow or another, an invitation is given. Now, let me say to you that it would be my preference as a general rule not to make an open invitation from the pulpit for people to come who are interested in leading in blank. but that you do your exploring and assessment as you begin to determine who might be qualified to lead, and you want to explore it a little further and then assess them. So never forget to ask God for the next crop of leaders. So you're going through this recruitment process. By the way, every single thing you do as a senior pastor, as a staff member, as a lay leader ought to be bathed in prayer. So we're asking God for a crop of leaders, for the next leaders that are going to come. Then there are some design questions I would suggest you ask as you put this together. Where are we going to find new leaders? In-house, out of house? Do they apply or wait to be invited? Is it by invitation only, or can they just come to the office or go online and apply for an opportunity to lead in your children's ministry? Who will find them? How do you find them? When will you find them? Is it seasonal? Do you have one time out of the year that you have a ministry fair and you're inviting volunteers and potential leaders to come in and talk to all the different leaders and workers in every ministry? And it's a leadership fair or a ministry fair or volunteer fair, whatever you're going to call it, however you're going to design it. But when are you going to find them? Is it seasonal? And the answer to that will have to be contextual, because not every place is going to be the same. So how do you decide how you're going to define your process? You've got to define your leadership development process, and one way that it is defined, and Will Mancini and Aubrey Malphurs defines it this way: the leadership development process is the process of helping leaders at every level of ministry assess and develop their Christian character and acquire, reinforce, and refine their ministry, both knowledge and skills. So you want to come up with a definition of what you're trying to do when you're developing them so that they can know up front what they're getting into, so that you're using it as one of the traits or a screening process to make certain that you don't put non-leaders into the leadership development process. Decide on your training dynamics. You're going to work on their heart, and so their emotions, the center of their will, you're going to help them develop and cultivate their emotions and their will, but you're going to deal with their heart, their head, and their hands. So in their character, you want them to be Christ-like, the fruit of the Spirit, integrity of heart, honesty, and humility. That you want them to be prepared for crisis in your church, so you've got to teach them and help them develop in their head and their heart for this. You want to make certain that they are teachable and trustworthy and competent. They have to have a certain IQ, so to speak, learnability to understand what to do, and doability, doing what they know. You want them to practice what they learn and have leadability. As a leader, they must follow. So they're going to be following your leadership. When you're deciding on your training dynamics, how are you going to approach them? Are you going to help them understand everything about your church and you're going to focus on the whole person? Or are you just going to focus on one or two parts? Then you need to determine your approach to training. Your training types. Now, are they learner-driven, where they're a self-learner doing this on their own? Are content-driven, where you've got an instructor and a learner, a trainer, who is helping to train them and it's a classroom setting? A mentor-driven, where it's hands-on coaching and you're going to instruct them and model and observe and evaluate. It's mentor-driven as one way to train them, to develop them. Are you going to do it experience-driven, where it's performance training? So it's on-the-job training. And you've got to decide how you're going to approach the training, or if you're going to use all four of these, and perhaps others that you may run across that apply well to you and your leaders who are training the leaders in your church. You can write these out and help people determine which way they best are trained. Then along with this, let me mention something else to you that I hope will help you as we look at these training approaches. Is there are a group of venues. These are not original with me. They're in the book Building Leaders by Aubrey Malphurs and Will Mancini. But they talk about being process-driven or process-oriented. They use a classroom or small groups or one-on-one or coaching or consulting or self-led. Then there's event-driven or oriented. And this is the idea of small groups involved in one particular ministry using a seminar or a conference or getaway retreats or workshops or some kind of rally or benchmarking where they're visiting and touring ministries one at a time. You've got all these different ways to help them. Some people will go in and they need to just observe it done for 6 weeks in a row. Others want to do that and be taught one-on-one or in a classroom setting. Others want to use a small group where they can talk and interact and energize each other, and there's synergy in that. Some want mentoring where they find a person whose leadership and ministry is very similar to what they believe they are, and to have that person mentor them. So you've got all these different ways that you can use to train people, and we'll deal and dig into that further with other videos to help you. Let's move from that into the idea of deploying them, and this is where we're going to engage people in ministry. We're going to actually place them in it and launch them out into your ministry. So this involves placing the right people into the right place at the right time. So who do you launch into service? Those who have gone through the discovery and development stage. Now, what level do you put them in? Well, you create levels for them. You create levels for them so that they can know where they belong in your church. Now, I'm going to give you just a way to set up the levels. Level 1, or level A, however you want to label it, can be your teachers and nursery workers, guest services, your IT guys, audiovisual lighting and acoustical technicians, drama, music counselors, band. You decide. Level 2 or level B, or call it whatever you want to, will be those serving volunteers, serving on boards, small groups, committees. Then level 3 are those who are serving in your full-time ministry that desire for professional training and preparation for their future, such as interns or second-tier paid staff or your support staff that are leading in some way. Then level 4 or level D would be paid staff such as pastors, administrators, or you can put your support staff such as a secretarial and administrative support staff who are there, your maintenance supervisors, and so forth. So you've got to come up with, they're all leading in some way and they're visible. You've got to decide how to put them into levels because you want to be able to prepare leaders for every single level in your church, from the senior pastor all the way to the guy who's a volunteer working part-time every couple of times per month. And so you want to help develop and create levels for this so they know what level they're preparing for, what level of leadership are they going to be developed for, where are they going to serve, and what the steps are to get to another level. Then you want to answer who launches the leaders. You need to assign launchers, and I would say that you assign launchers by the levels that you create. So you've got a person who's going to launch in level 1, 2, 3, and 4, or 1 through 6, however you set this up. Then where do you put them? Well, you've got to decide where to put them, what level and what ministry in that level, how are they going to lead, where are they going to lead. So you want to locate the right ministry for every new leader. Well, let's go from that to directing. In directing, we're going to monitor the process to determine the performance of both the process and the people who are serving in the process. So here you're stopping and looking at your leadership development process, and you're going to look at your process, your program, the performance of it, and the performance of your people who are leading that process. So when you monitor it, you're surely going to find things that you need to modify. In modifying, we're talking about assessing the performance and adjusting the performance and adapting the performance so that you can make changes. So you want to be a good Marine here, so to speak, where you're going to assess, adapt, and adjust. Then you have some design questions that you need to tackle here. And first, what will you evaluate? What part of the performance of the process and the people are you going to evaluate so people know how they're going to be evaluated? And then how often will you evaluate? How often will you evaluate? And how will you evaluate? Who will you evaluate? So as you go through these design questions, you want to be thinking about this on the front end so that people can see it. And then you're going to develop them and train them by giving them this information in multiple forms and over a period of time to help them know exactly what's going to happen. Because what you're wanting to happen is this, and this is just a 3-step process for developing any group in your church: disciples, leaders, volunteers, paid staff, volunteer staff, and so forth. The first one is information. You've got to teach them the ins and outs, the how, the when, the where, the what, the why, and the who. So as you do that, you want to give them the information about your process, put it in writing, put it on the website, have small groups, choose your approach to training them as we just went through. Number 2, there's an internship where they have a chance to learn and you test them. And this takes a little time for them to be step 3, and that's immersed in it, where they have time for it to absorb all the information and for a lot of it to have command and master the process, the material, so they can answer these questions themselves. So you want to take them through this, but as you monitor and make modifications, you need to do this to the process because you want it to improve and you want to increase the performance of it so that people come out better equipped and better developed to lead. You want to give them every opportunity to make the most use of God's potential that He has placed in that individual. You want excellence. You want them to be more effective and efficient with how they're leading. So you're going to produce a better leader. And then what will you do with the evaluations? People need to know, are they going to be embarrassed by this? Are you going to make it public? Who's going to come and evaluate me? Will it be the chief leader over the ministry that I'm a part of leading? And so will it be a team effort? Will it be interview effort? I mean, how are you going to do this? Then the last thing is to distinguish those who have performed well. In your leadership development process, there you would do well to honor and encourage your leaders through recognizing and rewarding them for a job well done. Now, we all want to be recognized and rewarded for the work that we do, don't we? And so you have, again, some design questions that you would do well to answer on the front end as you begin to encourage them and honor your leaders for their effort and for a job well done. So here's the first question. Who's going to recognize and reward the leaders? How are you going to do it? Is it going to be in front of everybody on a weekend service? How are you going to do it? Will it be a trophy, a plaque, a sheet of paper with it written out that you're giving that to them? Will it be what? How will you do it? Will it be on the internet? Will it be how? Where will you recognize and reward your leaders? If you have 3 Sunday morning services, are you going to do it in every service or just one? When will you recognize and reward your leaders? Will it be, as I said, during services and in the service? Will it be in the performance and you pull everybody together, say in your children's ministry, and recognize them and reward them and so forth? And what will you recognize and reward your leaders with? You know, what is the criteria by which they're being judged? How are they being assessed, evaluated? And then why will you recognize and reward your leaders, and how often will you recognize and reward your leaders? Now, you can develop your own questions, but these are just some that I would encourage you to consider as you go through this process of designing and developing your leadership development process. Here is one approach to help you cover all the bases. Well, I'm Marshall Shannon, Ministry Design Coach with Ministry Design Training and Concepts. You can reach me at this email address or either one of these 2 phone numbers. We'll be happy to help you further your development of your leadership development process.